I'm Sid Garza Hillman. Let me tell you a little bit about myself. I'm Sid Garza Hillman. I'm a nutritionist, health coach, writer of a couple books. I run a wellness center at the Stanford Inn and Resort in Mendocino, the nation's only vegan resort. And there's the finish of that ad. Anyway, welcome everybody. So I'm going to get rolling here. And when I was asked to speak here, they were going to originally put me on the panel that you just saw. And they said, is that kind of relevant? And it kind of is, but it's mostly not. And so I said, really, it's a standalone thing. Where I sit in my practice and my approach is in a very philosophy space. The panel before I was listening to a little bit, and it's phenomenal, great information. And so this is not anything about that, except to say that I do find people getting overwhelmed with information, overwhelmed how to negotiate these decisions that we're making. I want to simplify those things. I want to simplify nutrition. It's getting too complicated unnecessarily. And the more that we lower our stress around our decisions, the more that we lower our anxiety and overwhelm around these choices, the better we can communicate those things to the world, and the better we can live those ways in our own lives. I'm going to walk up here and do this whole thing. So let me start by asking why we are saying why we were here. Regardless of what reason, and again, this is one of the reasons I want to simplify, because people sort of go, okay, I'm in it for the animals. Well, I'm in it for the environment, and I'm in it for the health. And I really don't like that separation. I think it's too confusing. I think we are here, whether you're plant-based or not. I don't have any interest in even finding that out. Because what I know is that you showed up to this event, unless you just have no idea where you are right now, to find out some stuff, to listen to some information, to what? See if there's a better way to live. I don't care what the reason is. To me, that's an ethical decision that you walked in the door at this place. Maybe you walked in to make fun of vegans. I'll be right next to you. I'm just saying that if you came here for any reason to just get to know things, to listen, to try products out, and to go, what is this all about? I think that's amazing. And I think to get deep into the rabbit hole of one of those three things does a real disservice to the ethic of why we come to this decision in the first place. That's why we're here. To see if there's a better way to do this. That's why we're here. I don't care what reason you have. I care that you care. That's what I am interested in. The title of this talk is One Answer to Rule Them All. I will get to that at the end. Because as I'm speaking around the country, and I've been doing this for years now, one thing rings true. What do I say when? What do I say when somebody, what do I do when? Why? Because we make a decision to live this way, even most of the time. And we don't walk around going, what do you guys think about? I mean, maybe some of us do, but most of us don't go, hey, can I get everybody's single person's opinion about what I have on my plate today? We don't ask for that, but we get it. We freaking get it. We get the opinions, right? And how do I simplify that and give people a little bit of peace of mind on how to deal with that? What we might want and might not want. I think if we make decisions to live better and we actually start to live better, we might want to let people know. I mean, I think that it's not unusual to think like, I stumbled upon this information, this feels amazing, I feel good, my life is better now. I would like to tell people. That's why sometimes vegans come off as like crazy religious people. Look, I'm just, but it makes sense, because we go, this feels good, I want everybody to feel good. I think it's a really nice place to come from, right? I think it's a great place to come from, to say like, I want this for everybody. I think that's awesome. It's just that it doesn't necessarily equal effectiveness in the world. It doesn't necessarily equal people's minds being changed. That's all I'm saying. Hence, one answer to rule them all. Not getting there yet. I'm not going to give it away. This will be the shortest talk in the world. Here's the answer. I'll see you guys later. One answer to rule them all. Here you go. What we don't want is necessarily people criticizing us. We don't want to feel self-conscious. My daughter's 15, but when she was 12, as if kids aren't self-conscious enough when they're 12. She was harassed by a teacher's aide at school for being vegan. That's something I might not want, for instance. So we're up in a decision-making thing here where we got to kind of get on top of why we came to this in the first place. And here's when we fail in our own lives. We forget that it was a choice. Nobody is the opposite. Nobody's forcing you to be vegan. Nobody's forcing you to even think about it. In fact, they're kind of urging you to not do it. I mean, if you look at every part of the world, including the doctor's office, most are urging you to not be vegan. Who here saw the recent study, eat red meat and processed meat? It's good for you. What are you talking about bad for you? Hundreds of studies later. That's not. Eat more red and processed meat. That's the tip of the iceberg. That's the least surprising thing I've ever read. People will all flutter. Oh my God. There'll be 10 more of those things. 10 more. But if we forget about the choice that we made, because it is a choice, even to raise my daughter and my 10-year-old twins this way is a choice. Nobody's forcing me. Like I said, it's kind of the opposite. It's not a force, it's a choice. But in the day-to-day, we forget that a little bit because the stress of my daughter getting harassed sort of overtakes my life, and I go, oh my gosh, this is crazy. My wife and I are dealing with it, and we're talking to the principals and this whole thing. And I got to remember that it's a choice. Why? Because it's a better choice. Not because it's an easier choice, it's a better choice. It's a better choice. I think it's a good idea to understand and sort of remember whenever you can that when you take this on in a world that is so overwhelmingly not plant-based, so overwhelmingly biased against plant-based, you are adding stress to your life. I always ask people, like, anybody here married? Anybody here married? Come on, give it up. There we go, good. Easiest thing, right? You never have to maintain it, you just phone it in, right? I mean, once you're married, it's like you coast. I mean, it's like you coast. Been married 25 years. Literally, I kissed her on the wedding day, and it's been paradise. I mean, we never have trouble, ever.
You don't lie either, do you?
So, is it harder? Is there stress associated? Does it take work to maintain? Yes, that's like everything else that's of worth in this world. It takes effort. It takes effort. It takes work. It takes attention. It takes engaging on that level. So does this. It is much easier for me to send my kids to school and go eat whatever other kid eats because less hassle. Just not. It's easier. It is. Just not better, but it's easier. Just not better. So when you forget the choice, you forget the joy. All the things that you're going to come up against in the world as a plant-based person, a very, very minority. Here's what I call it. Ready? Ethical minority. Let's call it an ethical minority. The whole world goes into Starbucks, and they look at that pastry case, and they go, what do I feel like? They look at the menu and go, what do I feel like? I feel like this, I feel like this. Vegans go, what can I have? It's not feel, it's what can I have? I might feel like these things, but I'm going to have that. That's a very weird thing we're not really trained to do. We have not, unless we were raised this way, which my kids are. There's kind of a weird thing when you think about it. There's like a next generation of kids now that were raised this way. It's so weird because I was 38. You know what I mean? Like years of just ordering off a menu like you do, and now you have to think about it when you didn't before. It's very weird. And if you caught that kind of restrictive, it's harder, I can't have, these are things I can't have, then you forget the joy. I mean, if I go to Starbucks and go, I can't have those things, of course I can have those things. Of course I can have those things. I just chose not to have those things. That's a very different reality, and it's true. It's not word game. It's not word play. I'm not here going, try to think positive. It's actually a fact. You did make that choice. Nobody's telling you you can't do it. In fact, the opposite. You should do it. You should have the egg bite, or whatever they call those things. Have you seen those at Starbucks? Egg bite? Very weird. Not even appetizing to me. Egg bite. That's a side note. Anyway, okay, so. I'm talking about in general, I'm trying to do this better. Struggle. There is struggle associated with trying to do something better. Again, I'll come back to what I started this talk with, which is, I don't care what reason, environmental, animals, health, you're trying to do something better. You're trying to take on something and do it better. And unlike other things, by the way, like going to the gym and working out or something, There's something about food that just sets everybody's freaking heads on fire. They make you just they want to attack you. Nobody goes like, you're going to the gym, that's crazy that you're going to the gym. That's nuts. There's 10 studies saying that's bad for you. Nobody goes, go to the gym, I don't care. But if you don't put chicken on your plate, then it's like a thing. It's a huge thing. Why is that? Because we're attached to food in ways that are totally unnatural. So am I. Let's acknowledge it. It's nuts that we don't take a cucumber and eat a cucumber. We take a cucumber and slice and dice it and change it and combine it and flavor it and alter it, and then our heads get on fire. We make drugs out of food. I talk about this all the time. I do too. But we make drugs out of food. We really do. We don't just eat food anymore. We don't do that anymore. We alter it. And we don't alter it nutritionally. We alter it to make it taste better. That's that's that thing. It's very difficult to negotiate that stuff. I've been talking recently about sort of the next wave of food, which is like the Beyond Burger and the Impossible Burger, right? Nutritionally junk. And look, eat them. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying no that they're not, whatever. But the thing that we talk about those things is it tastes just like meat. Or, no, it does not taste like meat. It's either or. It's either convincing you or it's not. I know it's such a weird conversation to have because who cares? Like, what if it doesn't taste as good as beef? Like, so what? Like, you're gonna die because it doesn't taste 100% like meat? Like, it only tastes 90% like meat? But you're feeling better about eating it because it's not damaging to the environment and doesn't kill any animals? Like, that's not good enough? But no, if it doesn't taste perfect, I'm not making the move. You have to convince me 100% that this is, if I have a blindfold and I know that this is not beef, then I'm leaving this establishment. It's weird. It's kind of a depressing talk. Look, let's get happier here. Here we go. So now we're gonna get into the nitty gritty. I don't hide the fact that I enjoy single malt scotch on occasion. It's plant-based, by the way. And I was speaking in New York and I went to a party and they had a single malt scotch for me. It's very nice. If I ever go to your house, that's what you do. Just do that. And so I'm sitting there having a scotch, and there was pizza and salad that had cheese everywhere. And I ate before I got there. That's what we do. I mean, I kind of just do that because I've done this for years. I know what to do. And I didn't call ahead. I just don't. It's not my bag. I showed up, and the host, very kind, comes up to me and goes, okay, so you can't have the pizza. And in my mind, I'm like, yes, I totally can, but I don't want to, but I didn't want to. But the salad, we can take the cheese off of it. And I was like, well, that's fine. I ate, no problem, I'm totally cool. Now, remember, I'm holding a single malt. You have to remember, I'm holding a single malt scotch. And so, we can take the cheese off of it. I go, nah, I'm totally good. No, really, we can take the cheese off the salad, it'll be fine. I go, I'm really fine. I'm good. She goes, you need to relax. And I was like, what about me holding a single malt scotch at your party looks to anybody like I'm not relaxed, okay? That's number one story. Two, over the years, I've worked with many people who are trying to raise this is when kids, my newest book is on healthy families, so when kids, I have 3 of them, and they come into play here, it really kind of hits me hard. I've had parents who go, look, we're trying to raise our kids plant-based and for a multitude of reasons, but when they're with family, the family makes an extra effort to feed the kids not plant-based. Like an extra effort. Like they're making an extra effort to make sure that, I've worked with parents, I've worked with people whose spouse is trying to undermine what the person is that I'm working. Their kids have dairy allergies, and the husband is sneaking dairy to the kids, and they're feeling sick and getting stomach aches. I mean, literally, this is like insanity. Insanity. Now, the Uncle Jack reference is Breaking Bad. Anybody seen Breaking Bad? I just got forced to watch the whole season. I mean, I'm coming down. It was very stressful. But Uncle Jack's a reference to that. That's why I named him Uncle Jack. The dinner party assault, the families that are commenting, telling you that you're outright abusing or damaging Your kids, you know how many phone calls I get? I'm trying to raise my kids. I just need to be really careful. My so-and-so said that I'm this and that about protein and this and that about calcium. I mean, literally last week, not kidding, a lot. One of the first questions I ask is that person criticizing you? They're a nutritionist, right? No. Oh, again, they're not a nutritionist. Everybody's got an opinion about it. Everybody's got an opinion. Very few are actually studied, including MDs. And I'm not anti-Western medicine, I just don't want them to overstep that frickin' line. I have a pamphlet that I show in my talks usually. If anybody wants to see it, I have it. My wife and I got it in the doctor's office 11 years ago when she was pregnant with our twins. And it says, a good start, nutrition during pregnancy. It's a nutrition pamphlet in the doctor's office. Copyright, 1988, revised 1992, National Cattlemen's Beef Association. If you want to see it, I'll show it to you. It's in that bag right there. So, how do we do this? It's not good enough that we're making a decision to make ourselves happier and healthier and more vibrant and feeling better about whatever reason we're doing it for. Not enough. We got to fend off attack. We have to fend off family members trying to derail our choice about our bodies and about our kids. And we're being attacked about it. And it is an attack. I mean, let's face it. I mean, just so fresh. Because last week I literally was a woman, she's like, yeah, this mother-in-law and this sister, like, they're going after her. The grandma, just nailing it. Still got a lot of energy, that gal. Just attacking. Because they're trying to raise their kids. And her response to that, by the way, the woman I was talking to, who I was teaching, was sort of like, oh, I gotta do more reading. I mean, they totally got her swept up in this idea that it's on her. She better be more careful. She better learn more and more and more. So what she's getting stressed, she's dealing with the challenges of doing this on top of what she already knows. I said, you're doing fine. What you're feeding your kid is already better than 99.9% of the children out there. You do not need to read another thing unless you think it's fun to read about nutrition. Do not bother. Kids are getting type 2 diabetes. They're not the plant-based ones. Statistically. I mean, when I give talks sometimes I go, anybody ever had the cold or a flu? And they go, yeah, it's because you're vegan. It's like once you're plant-based, and when you have kids and they're plant-based, everything that happens to them, including a bad grade, is because they're vegan. Right? I mean, this is what we're doing. This is not we know. Anybody here is plant-based, you know. You'll get the protein question, that's duh. But how about the calcium question? I mean, geez, everything. It's constant. It wears us down. Why? Because we're always fending. We want to just do our thing better. We actually want the result of the actions that we did the actions for. We want to get the thing. The thing is feeling better. The thing is having a happy family, vibrancy, being able to travel, being able to be with family. We want those things. So we go, okay, I'm going to do these things to get those things. I want to eat better to not be conflicted about the fact that I'm ruining the environment. So I want to eat better on that level. I want to eat better so I'm not causing pain. Okay, that's good. I got that dialed in. I want to eat better because I want my body to feel good. I want to go be able to run and move around. I want to have no joint issues. And we don't even get to get that because we're fending off unsolicited attacks. So the question is, and I'll whip through this next slide because I already brought the kids, but don't even think about bringing in the kids because that's when it gets a little bit messy. A vegan walks into the bar. What's the oldest vegan joke? You guys, not vegan walks into a bar, I made that one up. I don't even know the punchline of that joke. But you know the joke, like if you walk into a room, how do you know who's vegan? What's the answer? They'll tell you. You heard that one? Okay. It's kind of funny. It's funny. I mean, we don't like that it's funny, but it's kind of funny. So we want to be effective in the way that we communicate this because we do want the change. We understand the nature of the game here. We understand that it is getting closer and closer to super duper important. It's always been important, but now it's like, no, really fires and crazy environmental things, like it's actually, like it's getting critical. And we're like, can we jump ahead 5 steps to where we don't have to go back and forth into debate because we got a stuff to fix thing? And we want that to change. The question is, how do we get that to change? And again, that panel before, good stuff. Know where they're coming from, listen to that, listen to. But I don't necessarily sit in that camp. But it's okay. I'm for whatever works, I'll put it that way. But we have to figure out a way when we are approached. We have to figure out a way when somebody comes at us about our kids, about ourselves, about whatever we're doing, with unsolicited advice, because they're gonna. We have to figure out a way to answer. They ask. When I'm at a party and I have food on my plate, it's not unusual, and yet I'm eating and I'm talking to people as people do in parties. Kind of the last thing I want to talk about is food. It's part of my job, so part of that is also just I want to actually be at a party with people and have fun and relate. And instead, oh, you don't eat chicken? Why don't you eat chicken? Are you vegan? You're raising your kids vegan? What about calcium? My doctor told me I needed to be on the keto diet. Oh, did she? Did she tell you that? Good. What about carbs? And can I eat first? And then but they asked. I mean, this is the weird thing is they asked, but who here thinks that they really want an answer? Who here thinks that they are asking you because they are actually curious about why you don't eat chicken? That they are in the time and place in their lives where they go, you know what? I'm totally ready to sit down and listen to this because give it to me. Let me see I really want to hear this. Why are you doing this? Probably not. But they asked. Sometimes in the past, before I had the one answer to rule them all, I would answer. But I would always do this. I go, I will tell you, but I want to remind you that you asked. I literally say that. You don't want to know why? Because I don't want to be the vegan in the joke. Oh, they came up and they started talking. No, I did not. You asked me. That's what happened. You asked me. I did not bring this up. I always said, you asked. I'll tell you, but you asked. Remember? You asked. But then I went one step further because I didn't even see that as a sufficient answer. I didn't see that as a sufficient answer. So where did I go? And I'm getting there, I promise. The you're not helping part is, this is, one of the talks I do is living the example. Because I think it's a bummer in one hand, and on the other hand, it's sort of like, okay, let's just do this then. Is that we are held up to a higher standard because of the choices we're making, right? Again, we have the line of people that are doing this thing, most people, 99 point whatever percent, and we step outside of that and we go, we're gonna do this thing instead. And when we do that, we are setting ourselves up, we don't want it, but we're setting ourselves up for criticism. We're setting ourselves up for a spotlight on us. We are doing something different. My daughter, at 12, was just doing what she does, eating lunch at school, but look what happened. Because somebody perceived that as different and went on the attack. Very odd. My daughter wasn't walking around going, you're not vegan, and she was just eating her lunch like a 12-year-old kid does, but gets the attack. A few slides ago, I said, you forget the choice, you forget the joy. So I'm going to dive into that for 5 seconds, which is to try to remember why we do these things. Because if we forget, we lose. And if we forget and we lose, we don't help. We don't get the word out. We walk around militant and angry and upset and unhealthy and with no energy. And we set an example that people look at and go, they want an excuse. They want a reason not to do it. Most people come to you and ask you why you don't eat chicken because they want to justify why they do. That's why. Why don't you eat beef? And they're just waiting to figure out how to paleo, Atkin you, out of the ballgame. But this person, and I knew that vegan who they didn't eat, whatever. I knew a vegan who was unhealthy. Probably Oreos are vegan and so is Scotch. We gotta do the best we can by ourselves because we gotta send that message out to the world. The one answer to rule them all is part and parcel to this. It's how do we embody a stance whereby people may pay attention, a stance whereby we remember why we came to this in the first place, a stance by which we can potentially make actual change in the world, just maybe not in that moment, but we gotta see the big picture. If we wanna convince this person and we go at it like this and nothing happens, we've just stressed ourselves out even more. We can't do that, because then we're not helping. We gotta avoid that stuff so that we can maintain a position of strength in our ability to communicate our decisions to the world in a way that is not in people's faces and not ineffective. Because we kind of know this, and we know it very well. What each of us does individually is both things of these things at the same time. Enough and nowhere near enough. It's enough for us, but nowhere near enough for the world. We know that. We know that we gotta do numbers. It's a numbers game. We know the effectiveness and the substantial, profound effect we individually can have. That's to be sure. But we know it's a numbers game. We know it's not enough for us just to do this thing. We are in this place of, I'm doing this and I'm doing it. But more people gotta do it if we wanna see the worldly effects of this. Yes? Right? It's a challenge. To help, we gotta have a position of strength. That's part of what the one answer to rule them all is. So now, one answer to rule them all. I was speaking in Portland a few years ago and a woman came up to me and she goes, I never know what to say. I always am asked, like, why don't you eat dairy? And I never know what to say. And I said, well, tell me, like, I mean, this is me, like, why don't you? Just real like that. And she goes, well, I don't because of, this and this. And she had these like 5 reasons. I go, that's what you say. Like, you do know. You do know. But the stress of this woman trying to craft a response, trying to craft a scripted answer, to stress, because and instead of like being in a place where she can be calm and low stress enough to answer that question, she was working toward this kind of answer. Well, I do not eat dairy because of the animals, and 43,700 cattle beef go to the big, and the other person they're talking to just goes, So I said, why don't you? And she knows. It's not that she doesn't know. She didn't ask me what to say because she didn't know. She asked me what to say because she doesn't want to be attacked. Because she doesn't want to be at a place where she can't effectively answer that question because she feels judged and critiqued. And she is being judged. Fine. We got to get stronger about it. Can we make the judgment go away? No. Not especially when we have studies showing eat more red meat and freaking processed meat. I mean, it's insane. So we got to do better. The judgment ain't going away. The criticism ain't going away. It's not going to go away. Kids throwing chicken at my kids is not going to go away. It's not going to go away. We got to do better. We got to thicken our skin. We got to be very clear about who we are and what we stand for. So you want to hear the one answer to rule them all?
Yes.
I'm not going to tell you. No. Somebody comes up to you and says, why do you not eat dairy? Why do you not eat beef? Why? Here's what you answer. No. If you only knew what I knew. So, here's the thing. You don't say this. But you understand that if you only knew that when I eat this way, I feel better. That if you only knew when I eat this way, I know that even on an individual level, I'm making a profound difference to the environment. That if you only knew what I know, which is when I eat this way, even on an individual level, I am actually not causing suffering in innocent animals. If you only knew those things, it is understanding that most people you come in contact with are humane. They do swerve to not hit the squirrel in the street. They do understand it on that level. And when we say, if you only knew what we knew, it gives a respect to that fact, but then says, I assume that given the information that I have on the level I have, and I ain't even talking about statistics, I'm talking about experience. I'm talking about when you do this and you feel the result of these decisions. That's knowledge too. And that's why we continue to raise our kids this way, even though it's harder. That's why I continue to eat this way and teach people to eat this way, even though it's harder. That's why. That's knowledge too. But you don't say that. You know it. What you say is, if you only knew what I knew, and then you walk. Thank you very much, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. Does anybody have any questions? Yes.
So, my physician sent me to a dietitian, and the dietitian gave me a very thorough piece on how the vegan diet is good on certain things.
Okay, so dietitian, can I stop you for a second? Was it low-fat dairy and white meat chicken by any chance? Because for a while I would get clients who came from a dietitian. I'd go, was it low-fat dairy and white meat chicken? They go, how did you know? I go, because every dietitian tells people low-fat dairy and white meat chicken, like every one of them. Anyway, go ahead, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Basically, it was just like bad questions that I've never asked about why the vegan diet is bad.
Yeah.
And bad science.
Yeah.
And I respect my physician.
Cool.
And so I'm trying to navigate, does it make any sense for me to bring them some good science?
No.
Or just shut it?
Nope, you do not have that conversation if you only knew what I knew. I have told people who are not working with me, just tell them you're working with a nutritionist. I mean, just do not engage. I'm sorry to say that do not engage. It is not the time and place. You're going to lose. Because they've got science. I can come up with 10 studies in the next 1 minute that show you that dairy is good for you. I can do that. It's not hard. That's easy. So do not get into science to science battle. You will lose. If you know and you've done the research and you've worked with people who are knowledgeable, look, there is, by the way, the guy, one of the lead scientists of that study recently, the red meat, more processed red meat, even though the WHO just classified it as a class 1 carcinogen, but then he and his team eat more. I can't believe a shocker that he was tied to the meat industry. Did you guys read that? Okay, he didn't disclose it. He was tied to it. Well, I didn't. It was technically past 3 years, so he's tied there. So I speak about plant-based diets because I'm funded almost entirely by the National Broccoli Council. Do you guys know of them? And I'm joking, but the point is that there's other things at play here besides science to science. You will lose because there's enough science out there, most of it, sorry, it is true, funded, like that pamphlet, I'll show you. National Cattlemen's Beef Association. I love the bravado, by the way. I kind of appreciate the bravado. They didn't even try to hide it like with a pseudonym. They were like, let's just call ourselves National Cattlemen's Beef Association. They weren't like, Families for Better Health. Like it was just like, they just went straight up because they knew nobody was going to read that copyright. Okay? So, either work with somebody who knows the science or read the science yourself. Can people be phenomenally healthy and plant-based? Yes. Are there athletes and people doing incredibly well? Yes. So it's possible. I mean, it's possible. It's not like, we've tested it, it's out there. And the bar on that is even crazy. Are there people, just regular people, living really, really well on a plant-based diet? Yes. Lots and lots of them. It's there. So you lose because you get stressed and you got to get into the back and forth and they know and you know, blah, 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 blah. Just go, yeah, cool, got it, thanks. Okay? And find somebody who is in that field. A physician sounds like they're in that field, don't they? They're in the healthcare field. I will talk to you about what you eat because I'm in the healthcare field. Well, I'm a nutritionist. How weird would it be if I talked about antibiotics? Super weird and totally inappropriate, by the way. You know this, I got this great antibiotic, you really should try it. You'd be like, you're a nutritionist, and you drive a 2012 Ford Focus. You have no business talking to me about antibiotics. That's not a line I cross because I don't study that. But they'll cross that line. They cross it with me. I got my kids in the doctor's office for a checkup. Are you feeding them milk? Healthy bones? Really? And I, as a nutritionist, I don't go there. I literally go, yep, okay, you got it. Can we just do the height, weight thing and I'm going home and I'll continue raising my kids really, really well. Yes? Cool? Yes, sir.
I have to say, I really appreciate your passion, the way you speak.
Oh, thank you.
Passion. I just wanted to, it's not only a question, but when I saw Dr. Clapper speak at the vegetarian Thanksgiving dinner,
Yeah.
and he got up to talk about doctors, and he had this kind of look on his face. I said, I'm really embarrassed in my profession. I said, they learn nothing about nutrition in college. They have no course about how to be healthy. He was trying to educate doctors. He says that's the way. I
have a different take on that. So let me just dive into that real quick. I don't think doctors should be embarrassed that they're not studied in nutrition because that's not part of their job description. I always think it's a weird thing when they don't even study nutrition. Yes, because that's not in their job description. In fact, I'm kind of nervous that doctors are learning about nutrition because they're not all learning about nutrition. And I think if some learn about nutrition, it sounds amazing. They're studied in nutrition, but it sort of perpetuates this idea that you go to your doctor for nutrition advice, and it's not appropriate yet. I was just talking to a friend of mine, Michelle McMacken. She's out and about. Brilliant, and we can speak around. And so I said, is there any governing journal, American, like medical association sort of nutrition can be part of the curriculum? She goes, no. And it makes me nervous because she's teaching doctors, and the work is amazing, except for that people get this idea that that's where you go. And until it becomes part of their job description, I don't want people going there, because most doctors are not learned in nutrition. It's not a criticism, it's a fact, like I don't study medicine. So it's just this thing where it's not a criticism, it's just like, no, don't go there for that. I made up a character in my last podcast, my old one, called Randy the Mechanic, that people would go to for marriage advice. The point is like, don't go to Randy for freaking marriage advice. He's a mechanic. That's crazy. But that's kind of what's happening. We're going to doctors for nutrition advice. It's not a good place to go. If you want to go to your doctor for nutrition advice, just make sure she or he is studied in it. Because there are some brilliant doctors, Clapper being one of them, Greger, and I could go on for 15 more years on Garth Davis and Joel Furman. They're amazing, but they're still the minority. So just make sure that your doctor is studied in actual nutrition. That's all I'm saying. So perfect, right? Cool. Okay, there's no reason to be embarrassed. Just like, yeah, we're not there yet. Maybe it'll be part of a job description, but it's just not there yet. Anybody else? Yes?
I've been with trainers, I'm a weightlifter, and so I try to tell them different movies or things that they can watch because I feel like I can explain it myself. They say, well, they're all biased. Just
Yeah.
like we say to be
Sure. Yeah.
They say, oh, plant-based people are behind it, right?
Uh-huh.
How do you explain that? One. Number two is they say, well, those weightlifters, they're not really weightlifters on plant-based diets. They're all taking something. There's no way the human body can get as large as
Okay, so are they nutritionists? No. See, and personal trainers are perfect.
How do you even talk
You don't. I'm sorry. It's so frustrating, isn't it? Because you so want to. Like you have that like, but you don't.
because they just talk about
You go, teach me how to do a deadlift with proper form. That's what I'm hiring you for. And you go home and you feed your body with fuel that grows your body and keeps you healthy. Whereas most lifters grow muscle without being healthy. You're trying to do both. Good, go home and keep doing that. You keep working on you, keep your stress levels low, do not engage. Just go, yeah, if you guys only knew what I knew, walk away. Not kidding. In most cases, that's the best you got, because they know more than you, but they don't, but they do, right? We know, are the authority. Only because you're a personal trainer, you're authority, but you're not authority in nutrition. It's very weird. It seems like part of the same subject, but it's a very different subject. Okay? Anything else? Okay, you guys, I'm going to be at the Stanford table. I got a couple books for sale and whatnot. Thank you very much.